Welcome to Destination Marriage, a podcast about successfully navigating the winding roads of marriage. Whether you're newlyweds, engaged, looking to get married, or have been married for years, we want to share with you how we have navigated those winding roads over the past 19 years in our marriage.
Join us on this journey as we talk about real-life experiences in a marriage and what we have learned along the way. We discuss love, travel, fitness, raising kids, friendships, and much more, all from the perspective of our lives together.
Happiness, love, grace, passion are some of the things we all strive for in a marriage, and we invite you to take this journey with us.
Welcome to Destination Marriage. Welcome to episode 44 of Destination Marriage. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are thrilled you have joined us on the journey today. Hi, babe.
Hey. How's it going?
It's going good.
That's good. Well, welcome to part 2 of our discussion on the poison that is narcissism.
Yes, indeed.
So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, we would love for you to download and give it a listen because it's a 2-part. So, but if not, just to kind of give you a quick update on what that was about. Last week we discussed the Hulu documentary, The Housewife and the Hustler, about Tom Girardi and his wife, Erika Girardi, or AKA Erika Jayne.
That's how I know her, with my intense following of
you follow her pop star
rich
career?
Women's pop star careers. That's my favorite genre of music.
Right. I think your favorite song that she put out was It's Expensive,
to Be Me.
to
Be Me.
Right?
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
So a little bit about just kind of the backstory. Just, to give you an idea why we're leading into narcissism. These two individuals are basically a picture of narcissistic behavior and, obviously to the extreme. And, obviously it was a relationship that was just filled with corruption. Unfortunately, a lot of other people were negatively impacted by their narcissistic behavior. Obviously, these are two individuals that were a part of criminal acts and really just stealing. Allegedly,
innocent
I guess.
Until proven guilty.
Okay, well, innocent until proven guilty.
If you listen to last week's episode, in my mind, they're guilty. And I made no qualms about saying that. Because the highlight really is the fact, when we talk about narcissism, is how they put their world on display for everyone to see on national television. Mm-hmm. The spoils of their criminal activity. I couldn't believe they live in that big of a fantasy land.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a powerful attorney, you know all the ins and outs of basically the legalities around what is okay when it comes to the exchange of the financial winnings from a case. And he basically did complete opposite of what was okay.
And then allowed it to be shown on TV.
Yeah,
his wife, walking around their house and showing off all their stuff.
He was already knee deep into illegal activity.
That's
and then
nuts.
To sign up for a show. Basically, this is the picture of narcissistic behavior right here. Okay.
Right. She's just oozes it as a general rule. And his is takes a different type of form.
He believes he's above the law.
Yeah.
He's
very
above
superior.
The law.
And
right.
It just boggles my mind that who knows? We talked about it at length. I'm going to get angry again here. So
quick little update since last week. I will say there's a quick update on Erika, just in case you didn't know. This just came out. I want to say
Billboard
within the
number 1 hit or no?
Yeah, she's at the top of the charts. So, but not for the right reasons at this point. So within the last 48 hours, Erika, actually her accountant is now actually being brought into court. He's going to be questioned
as a witness,
heavily as a witness under oath, because obviously he's been working with her for the however many years, and so
did they say if he's got an immunity deal?
They did not reveal that yet, but they're bringing him in there for questioning. And the other thing they requested of Erika, which she has not handed over, they want a copy of her contract for the Real Housewives to see exactly how she was compensated, whether it was gifts or if she was paid directly. They want to know the ins and outs of every dime, because she is now she walked away from this mansion and her Lamborghini and all those things. She's on the struggle bus living in a $1.5 million home. So the question is, how are you paying for it?
Mm-hmm. Well, they can probably subpoena that from Bravo if they need to. That's not that. That's a subpoena away.
Yeah.
Right.
I would imagine they'd be able to request it at Bravo.
But I hope they go down in flames. I really do. Right. And so last week we kind of used them as an example to kind of highlight like some of the
it's an extreme example.
Yeah, it
obviously.
is, right? But there's people in all of our lives that exhibit narcissistic behavior or just are flat out terrible narcissistic people. So why don't we kind of go through some of those narcissistic traits, how do you spot a narcissist? Right.
And there's a laundry list, but here's the thing. If you are really knee deep into a relationship with someone who's a narcissist, they know how to manipulate the situation so you feel as though you're the person in the wrong.
Yeah.
And so if you are in a relationship that's abusive, and obviously we want to target this more towards marriage, but this can obviously be a friend or a family member.
Families. It can be coworkers or, your boss, which, that's hard, right? They're your boss.
That's probably a little bit more difficult. But I would say, if it's a friend or a family member, someone in your home, especially your spouse or your fiance or boyfriend, this is probably hopefully help some people. So you know
absolutely.
how to remove yourself from the situation and put a stop to something that really could be detrimental to your future.
Well, if it is your fiance, I would just say the answer is run.
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
Don't listen to the rest of this episode.
Say
just
bye,
run.
gotta go.
If you recognize these things in your partner, these are really deep seated traits and behaviors that are, it's not like, hey, he leaves a toilet seat up, right? I mean, this has the potential of being devastating in your life.
Yeah. This is, if it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, or fiance, yeah.
So
I think this is a deal breaker.
Like you said, that's a laundry list. So what we did is we just kind of picked 5 of the ones we like, and we're just going to go down the list and just kind of talk through it and see, maybe you guys, as you're listening, you're like, oh,
yeah, hopefully
I do that, or, oh, that happens. I see that in these people in my life.
Yeah. And, if it raises a red flag, whether it's you or someone else, take a step back, because and maybe give this some thought on how you could handle it, or maybe pivot and make some changes in your own behavior.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So kick us off, Tom. What's the first one?
Lives in a fantasy world. Now, we're not talking, is a daydreamer or a dreamer.
Or an alter ego?
Yeah. I mean, alter ego, right? Yeah. Oh, man, I hate her so much. Sorry. I know I'm not supposed to say that word. Sorry, Mom, but I really hate her. So, yeah, living in a fantasy world is more of like, if you think it from a negative standpoint, not like, oh, they're a daydreamer or dreaming's great, right?
Yeah.
You want to dream big, and
absolutely.
We're not talking about little kids that, want to be an
astronaut.
a ninja or an astronaut, right?
Yeah.
It's that they're saying things or doing things, and they may honestly believe that like that's truth or that's reality. And it's like devastating on the people around them. They
have this grandiose idea of who they think they are.
Right. I mean, like how many times I don't know if your mom said this growing up, but I heard it all the time.
What's that?
Oh, the world doesn't revolve around you.
Revolve around you.
Right? Like we've all heard that. And that's a good way of kind of bringing people back down to earth. Like the world doesn't revolve around you.
Right.
Right. It feels like maybe, just maybe,
I don't think
a lot of kids are being told these days that the world does revolve around them.
Well, it may not even be that. It may just be that no one is telling them when they are acting that way that the world does not revolve around them.
We're all kind of selfish by nature. We have to be taught not to be selfish in general. Right.
And here's the thing. When you're dealing with a true narcissist, they are so far beyond to the point where if you were to tell them no, or if you were to say that to them, then they're going to come back at you with something else to make you feel as though you're trying to beat them down, or, trust me,
spin things.
Right. They're going to spin it in some way, form, or fashion if you're not buying the story that they want to tell you.
Either intentionally, because they're that deceptive, or they're literally living on another planet. Which
is possible.
Right. They live in a fantasy world. Number 2.
Superior attitude. Which this is obviously right in line with last week's story. So, kind of thinking he was above the law.
Yeah.
The same would apply with, even
because
if
he had power, he had influence.
And he did. He had power, he had influence, he had
because
money.
He's smart. He was intelligent. He was a genius level lawyer,
He was smart, but then he was greedy. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. There are a lot of people that are not even at that level of success, professional success, or even in that financial tax bracket, right? That feel as though they are above, maybe not even the law, but just like human decency. They don't have to treat somebody with respect. They don't have to speak to someone
or
with
honor
kindness.
somebody, honor an authority figure
Exactly.
in any way. Yeah.
Because they're above it. It's everyone answers to me, and they also feel as though they're only going to
Always right.
associate. This is the other thing with a narcissist. They're only going to associate with people or give someone a level of attention based on how they can serve them. So if they feel like, this person can really serve me in this way, I'm really going to kiss their rear end. I'm going to, just give them tons of compliments, even if I don't mean it, because they are very opportunistic and it serves their agenda.
We're going to get fired up by the end of this list, babe.
I'm already feeling it.
So am I. It's welling up. Just let it out. Let it out. Number 3, cannot admit to mistakes and blames others. So they kind of go hand in hand. We kind of combine two there because really they do, right? So if they just flat out won't admit its mistakes, they tend to then, like you said earlier, immediately blame something else or blame someone else or blame a situation, blame blame the environment, blame this, blame that. They never looked inward and say, did I do something wrong? What can I do to fix it? And who did I hurt in the process?
Right. Like a lot of times I feel like with a grown adult that's exhibiting narcissistic behavior, they're going to point a finger if it's not at their spouse, but they're going to go maybe 15, 20 years back and point a finger at, maybe a parental figure. Well, they didn't do this,
Yeah.
And so now 20 years later, I'm not, X, Y, and Z, or I'm not where I want to be. You know what?
And there could be some real hurt there.
Oh, there can be, but there comes a time where,
it's all it is an excuse. It's just blame shifting. Never taking.
And we're also talking about they're typically blaming if they start to misbehave as far as how they're treating other people and they get called out, then they place a blame on someone else that maybe, like I said, was part of their life 10 or 15 years ago. Oh, but now, this is an excuse for them to be able to act out and treat their spouse this way, or a friend or a family member, or even a coworker.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not okay. And if people buy into that, they make them feel as though you need to sympathize and feel bad for them and excuse their behavior.
They're a victim. Yeah.
Right.
It's very narcissistic.
It is. I feel like it's like the remember Pee-wee's Playhouse where they would say the word of the day and they would go, ah. Yes, that's how I feel when I hear that word.
I like it. What's next, baby?
Yeah, so the next one would be creates confusion. So a lot of times you'll find that someone who's exhibiting narcissistic behavior, especially if it is a spouse, they're a storyteller. They will create a story that's going to benefit them. They'll create confusion by changing a lot of the elements that are a part of the story.
Depending on who they're talking to, right?
Depending on who they're
They'll
talking to.
tell different versions of a story to create that confusion.
To try to make you feel paranoid. They may also change elements in the story to try to make you turn you against another person. However, whatever they need to change in the story and however many times they need to change the story, they will create confusion so you feel like the world or the room is spinning.
Yeah.
And to make you question yourself.
Sometimes they'll do it either to sometimes they'll do it just because they like the chaos. They like to light a match and watch things burn.
Isn't that a sociopath?
Well, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, right? But some people just like to see the drama, but other times they'll create that confusion in order to kind of going back to the other one I just talked about was, place blame elsewhere. And so you create confusion and then people don't know what's going on and, let's just forget about it, whatever. And then that person gets away scot-free.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, just side note, I mean, just in life in general, how easy it is to point a finger, right? Versus taking responsibility for your actions. I mean, it's the easy thing just to point a finger at the next person, and so, I mean, it's a lack of maturity. Absolutely. I feel, I mean, someone who's that narcissistic and doing these things on a daily basis, to me feels, it sounds very childlike.
Yeah. Keep it going, baby. What's next?
Okay. No remorse.
Yeah.
No remorse at all. And I think with last week in that story, everything that's still playing out, we have yet to see any remorse on either end. And, obviously they're not really in that situation coming, one's not going for the other as far as the husband versus the wife, but their behavior, their narcissistic behavior has affected multiple families. And in this case, if it was a husband and wife, this is someone who's basically going to almost, they don't have any remorse because they get a high off of beating the other person down or winning them to, it's a win for them to get them to see it their way, to be on their side at all times. So they don't have any remorse. That basically that almost that light switch is completely turned off.
I like it. So the next
do
one,
you?
no, I hate it, but I like your. I mean, it's a pretty good answer, babe. I think you got that one wrapped up, a nice little bow on it.
You take the next one.
So this one's kind of tough, but obsessed with looks. And so let's be honest, like with everybody having TikTok, Snapchat, FaceTime, being remote, Zoom calls, like we're all looking in the mirror a lot more and seeing ourselves a lot more. And it's really easy to just check your hair, to see how your clothes look, and do that real quick, right? But do it a lot more often than you would have in the past. So this one's kind of hard. And I think a lot of kids are picking it up just from seeing, everyone else do it. So I don't know if it's always necessarily, narcissistic if you see someone checking their, like checking their hair out or whatever, because you see it all the time in the phone.
Everyone wants to look presentable. There's nothing wrong with that.
So this is much more around that, I don't know that this necessarily impacts other people as much, but maybe it's more of a sign of like, hey, if they're doing this, if they're so obsessed with their looks that it like, that's all they think about, that's all they care about, there's probably a lot of other behaviors that are actually hurtful. That's more like I guess it could take away from relationships, but. Well,
here's the other thing. It's part of, this is how I view it. So when they're obsessed with their looks, I'm not only just saying, we're not just saying obsessed with your face or your hair, your physical appearance. It could also be like how you're dressing, what you're carrying, what you're wearing, what you're.
Now you're in materialism,
but it's your look, right? Yeah. It's what you want to portray, what you're driving. A lot of these people who are creating a story, including these very wealthy people who were stealing $20 million, even though they had plenty. They wanted to even have more wealth and more things.
And then put it on national television.
And put it on TV so they can, portray this type of lifestyle. How many people are doing that already with, driving that kind of car, things that really they're not in a position to have, but it's a look, it's an
That's a good
image.
point. That is actually
a lot of it
more
is
of
about
image. Obsessed with their image.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And it's a bunch of baloney.
I guess I see that whole like look in the mirror thing all the time so often now. Like I think, oh my gosh, are they that obsessed with themselves?
They are.
Constantly?
They are.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm obsessed with you, though.
Well, I'm looking at you all the time. So does that mean I'm narcissistic towards you?
No,
I'm obsessed with your looks in a good way.
But I'm obsessed with you, so that's good.
The next one is energy vampires. The way I see this one, maybe you have a different kind of interpretation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that person that when you know you're going to be around them, you get that feeling like, like you already feel drained just thinking about it.
Yeah,
and
you
then
feel
when
like you're
you
going to
leave,
get like the runs.
and then, well, that
you're
feels
like,
more like
I got a gurgle in my stomach already.
Yeah. And then at the end of whatever conversation, argument, interaction, day at work, whatever, you just feel drained emotionally. Like they just like, what happened? That's how I feel. Like they just suck
the life out of you. I actually saw something. I think
is that how you see it?
I think it's a perfect interpretation. But I did see something else. A lot of times when people are in these relationships with a narcissistic abuser, sometimes it takes just one random day where they have a light bulb moment, or they're with someone else that knew them maybe 10 or 15 years before they were in this relationship, and they don't recognize them. There's one day they wake up and they don't recognize who they are, because over time that vampire has just
sucked the
slowly,
life out of you. Yeah.
Little by little has sucked the energy, the confidence, just they've taken a lot of those little bits of who you are at the core, to the point where you're almost an empty shell.
Very true. Be mindful of that, people. Right?
So the other one would also be smear campaign. And I don't even know if this would, necessarily still be in a marriage, but it can definitely be in relationships, and it can be in, now that this couple, she's trying to, leave the marriage. She's filed for divorce, and now she's basically, pointing fingers at him and going on a smear campaign against him. So
I think that's all strategically done, but yeah.
To hide money.
Yeah, just to make her side. I guess it is a smear. It's like she's so narcissistic as well, even though he is too. She's doing it, and now to try to get sympathy for her. But I mean, a lot of times it's just evil too, right? They're so absorbed with themselves, they can't admit mistakes, so they'll just. And smear campaign doesn't have to be like wipe the floor with this person's reputation, but it could be little things too. It's those little jabs, like the little things like, oh, did you hear, like gossiping and saying things that aren't their business, and just flat out lying about somebody.
Yeah. Because a lot of times when a narcissistic individual will do these things, if they're on a smear campaign, let's say it's not against their spouse, but they will come to their spouse to say something about someone else, it's because they don't want them to have a relationship with that person, because they feel threatened by the friendship, the family relationship, whatever it may be, because they do want to isolate that person, or if they feel like a smear campaign against,
Serves their
ABC
purpose
individual
of
makes them look better, or serves, yes, it has to serve them in some way. Again,
Yeah,
they're very selfish individuals.
Yeah. Which goes into our last one we're going to talk about before we kind of switch gears and talk about signs in a marriage.
What's that?
And that's possessiveness, right? A lot of it's there. And a lot of narcissism, from what I understand, as far as what the psychologists will say, is it's a lot of times deeply rooted in low self-esteem, or in a real, what's the word I'm looking for? Like deeply rooted in fear, and it's a lot of it's just a show. It's just a front, and being very possessive is kind of goes hand in hand with maybe you're fearful, and so you just put it out there, and you're so aggressive, and you don't want others around them, and you isolate these, with people, right? Like you're just possessive over somebody. Yeah. Like obsessively.
Right. And you really try to break those friendships or their relationships away. So they're really
like feelings of inadequacy is what I was trying to think. Like there's a deep sense of inadequacy. So like if you do get someone that, you get your hooks in, man, they'll just keep the hooks in them and just be really possessive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very controlling as well.
It's controlling, yeah. So what we thought we could kind of, when we were thinking about the rest of this episode, right, we found some stuff online, and we found a really good site. It's called psycom.net. And so we found an article that said 9 signs you are married to a narcissist. So let's kind of go through these and just think, again, we kind of encourage you to kind of think about if these versions of, if this is some of your story, right? How do you kind of recognize it? Recognizing it's the first,
that's the first step,
right?
Before you can work on anything.
And so let's just kind of go through these. I mean, there's some really good points here, I think, that are important and maybe they're not really, really deep seated things, but maybe they're little things that are happening in you, it's like maybe there's little light bulbs that could go off as we kind of talk through these. So lead us off, baby.
Yeah. So the first one would be you feel isolated, which kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about as far as possessiveness. But, drifting apart from friends or family members, basically having maybe before you had, thriving social life or just really solid friendships and relationships, and you all of a sudden look around and it's crickets because your marriage has basically over the years, that person has kind of pulled you away without you maybe even noticing, that.
Yeah. They slowly just, push the friendship away. Yeah.
So
and we're not talking.
Well, a lot of times they'll badmouth those individuals. They'll make you feel guilty for wanting to spend time with them. That's just unhealthy.
Yeah.
But they may do it slowly.
That's what they were saying.
Very methodical about it.
Because we're not talking about seasons in life, right?
No, we're not talking about we just got married
job,
and
or
we want
you just got married, right? Those are seasons where you're maybe isolated from your friends because you don't want to be around anybody else but your spouse for a little while, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is more of that, kind of like maybe you have an aha moment, like I'm isolated, not alone, but like isolated, right?
Yeah.
Alone is temporary, but like at least how I see it. Like isolated is like intentional. It's like so if that is you and look back maybe, and it's like, gosh, has my spouse been maybe like lying to my friends about stuff over the years, or lied to me about, friends that maybe they didn't do what my spouse said. Just, be honest about that and kind of look back. And
are they really your friend?
Yeah. Why would you let somebody do that to you?
Trying to plant seeds in your head to question the friendship, or to make you feel like that person's not really in your corner. Just saying little snide remarks. A narcissist will do that. They'll try to plant those seeds.
A confident a confident husband, a confident wife, that you kind of always want to build each other up. And part of building each other up is supporting their friendships.
Right.
We need people in our lives that can speak into our lives and our friendships we can have fun with.
Healthy friendships are really important.
And you shouldn't, if you're intimidated by that, you need to check yourself. Like, why are you intimidated
before you wreck yourself?
Oh, come on, this was serious.
It was. You just heated up, though. I had to. Sorry.
Before you wreck isn't it rickety wreck yourself?
Rickety?
Oh
my gosh, we need to stop.
If you say it fast, you just don't know if you say it wrong or not. Number 2, you're being gaslighted. I really don't like this word because I don't really understand it, but
I think because it's been overused is why you don't like it. It's like
that's probably why.
No, I'm serious. The last couple of years you hear
this is triggering me. This is triggering me.
People use it all the time. They even say like their dog's gaslighting them now. I mean, that's how often it's been used.
If you had to like
a real thing though.
But what is it? What like one sentence? How could you explain what gaslighting is? One sentence.
So yes. So basically, gaslighting, what it's supposed to be. Obviously, like I'm saying, people exaggerate it and overuse it now. But what it's supposed to be is, let's say you blatantly did some horrible act in front of me. Okay. And then I said, I can't believe you just did that. That's terrible. And this is, you did X, Y, and Z in front of me. Even if I had it recorded, and you would say to me, I never did that. You're imagining things.
Just making them feel crazy.
I never said that. Yeah. And so basically, even if you, in front of that person, they have proof, they're going to deny to make you feel as though you're questioning whether or not you're the crazy person. They're going to make you feel like you're paranoid. Basically it tries to, over time, it makes you spin out of control mentally. And so then you question everything. And then you get to the point where you don't even question them.
It's not me, it's you. It's not me, it's you. Okay. Number 3, praise looks like this. And so we kind of give some examples of, how narcissist like praise changes. And so a lot of times, before the I do's, right? The praise is just, you're just doting on each other, or doting on someone, right? And then maybe they shift where it's just in private, they're negative, but in public, they still want to keep up that image of being, I'm a great husband. Look how much I dote on my wife, and I pray. And then behind
doors, they're like,
just totally different person, right?
Or don't give you any attention at all.
Right. So like, question that. That's a legit thing to question, and vice versa. Why at home do you praise me, and then yet out in public you praise others and make me feel
right? Because again, that's self-serving.
It is.
It's going to make them look good, right?
Yeah. So question that and have a conversation about that. Maybe it. One of the things that you've had to like correct me on, it's not necessarily narcissistic, but it's just how, I don't know, I just do it. Like, I'm very like self-deprecating in public, right? I don't know why. And I'm not that you want me to be like proud. It's just, Tommy, don't say that. Like, you don't have to say that to try to make other people feel comfortable. I know that's why you do that. Right. But it's not that you like hate yourself. You're not doing it because you have low self-esteem. You're doing it to try to make others feel comfortable. But I've done that at your peril inadvertently in the past, and it bothered you, it hurt you. And I wasn't trying to. It was more like I was just trying to make everybody feel comfortable, crack a joke, not necessarily like mean-spirited.
But was it really a joke? Did anybody laugh? I don't know.
Well, normally I don't laugh. But the point is like, but question that.
Yeah.
And have a conversation with it and find out maybe what the root cause is of that, right? Because in my case, I was never try to hurt you in front of other people. It was how I act about myself, I was portraying that on you, and that wasn't fair to you. You didn't like it, and that hurt your feelings, and it hurt your, I was wrong. See, not narcissistic. I admitted I was wrong.
Okay, so number 4, it feels like your partner is trying to make you jealous. And you know what? I think this is probably a lot easier for people to do now, by still connecting with someone that they were dating in the past and, saying, oh, so-and-so complimented me here. Oh, this person that I used to date, they're doing this, or, you know what I mean? Still having that open communication, but not only having the open communication, but then making sure that they tell their spouse and they're open about it, to try to just dig a little knife in their side.
Why don't you, work out like that? Why don't you look like that? Why don't you make me those meals? Why don't you, do that for your kids?
Right.
For our kids. Right. That one's one that's like kind of a nice jab. Oh, geez, why don't you do that for our kids? Look at Sally Jane over there.
Or why don't you look like that? Or why don't you...
That's just controlling and mean. And it's just to make yourself feel better, a lot of times, or it's just to kind of create this controlling environment where it's just, it helps to wield control, unfortunately.
Right. I think it's probably used more along the lines so that person feels like, well, my spouse is going to be the only person that loves me or will accept me because I'm not doing those things, or I don't look like that. They're slowly just beating you down. So I always thought it was really weird when someone would try to make their partner feel jealous. It's really bizarre to me.
Feels yuck.
Or even jealous of, it could even not even be jealous of someone else, the opposite sex, but it could be jealous of the attention they get from others, or who they think they are in their imaginary world. Yeah, that's possible.
And then the second jealousy is baby jealousy. Which is a real thing, right? Like, I think it's probably, my guess is it's more often the mom is doting on the baby, spending a lot more time, and just all their efforts are on the kids. And it doesn't have to all necessarily be just babies, but that's obviously where it starts, is with a baby.
I don't really understand that. I mean, I don't know. It just...
I think it happens more often than you realize, and especially once a couple kids are around. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of moms become so obsessed.
No, but getting jealous of the parent-child relationship is kind of weird.
I agree, but it's a real thing. Yeah. If let's say the dad is very, very narcissistic and is getting pissed that his quote, his needs aren't getting met, and, the attention's not on me, so I'm going to be mean, or I'm going to demand and, try to pull the mom.
That's going to go over well.
Yeah, with a new mom, right? But, and then the flip side is also that parent that then is so narcissistic that they feel like their kid is just a direct reflection of them, and so they helicopter parent, to the extreme too, right? So just look out for those things, right, and then find out what's driving it. I think a lot of times for the moms, they maybe don't even realize that because it's such a intense emotional time, right? They don't even realize how much time they're spending. It's not intentional on the husband, or vice versa. I mean, it can go both ways, but I think a lot of times it's that mom that they're physically and emotionally in a whole different place. And if you have an uncaring or a narcissistic husband, it's just going to make it even worse, right? So that could be a whole another episode, right? New baby relationship.
It could. Best practices. I think the narcissistic, when it comes to children, can also be applied in a different way, where, whether it's the husband or their wife, they're so narcissistic that, it's all about them. And so from the very beginning, they don't want to expand the family, or they refuse to do that because they say it's my show. The show is about me, and I'm not sacrificing anything, even if you want kids. Sorry. You bought tickets to this show, and the show's about me. So I'm sure it can go that way as well,
And then I think, I guess it kind of, and sticking with the children theme, right, is using kind of criticism of of the other's parenting skills as a way to, again, show control and to be
blame
superior,
shift,
blame shift, or just saying, just being critical of your if I was critical of the way you were, parenting the boys all the time from a distance.
From a distance.
Oh gosh.
Okay, sorry.
It's narcissistic. It's selfish. It doesn't help the situation. Now, in a healthy relationship, there are times where you have to have healthy conflict about where you feel the others. We've had healthy discussions.
To come together on how to discipline.
Right. Or if I don't agree with something you're doing with the boys, or vice versa, which it's normally I'm doing something wrong. So it's normally you coming
instead of
to me.
pointing fingers and saying,
Right.
this issue, or you've created this problem, you've created this issue, this is happening because you're not disciplining this way, or instead of coming together and saying, we have an issue with, Billy Bob, and we need to address it.
And then the kids are smart. They're going to figure that out too.
And they'll play one against the other.
Right?
Yeah, you're just giving them.
So you're just creating little baby narcissists.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Have fun with that.
They quote, confide in your family. This is a really controlling one.
Oh, what's that one?
So as I understand it, so if you're selfish and you're looking to make things all about you and it's your world, they'll maybe go to the sister. Like if I went to one of your sisters and tried to make you look bad and get sympathy from her and get her on my side, or to the mother-in-law, or whatever direction you want to take it, right? The wife going to the husband's family and vice versa. I think that
they want to try to build a case against you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's so that either isolates you or preempts.
Basically, they want to poison those individuals against you, so they already have some type of. They've basically planted a seed to create some idea around who you are or the situation.
Yeah, and which may be to blame shift or to take the heat off of.
Well,
imagine
I think
if I went.
Narcissistic people are very strategic. They probably know exactly what they're doing. They're going to try to get to that person before you do, before that person forms their own idea around who you are or view of the situation. Yeah, that's sneaky.
It really is. So this next one is, they call it, the author calls it the signature love bombs. Doting on your spouse or, fiance doesn't have to be a love bomb. It could just be a nice thing that you like to do, but
like
we'll
flowers,
call them love bombs.
Love notes.
And then they just stop.
Surprise gifts.
Right. Like right after the marriage, like that person stops and then maybe you get stuff here and there and then you realize, oh, well, they booked that trip because they either did something wrong or because they want something. Like instead of it being a sacrificial
I was
gift,
thinking about you and I just want to make you feel loved and special.
It's manipulative to
there's strings attached.
There's strings attached. Yeah, that's basically, I think that in the case of a true narcissist, it's a self-serving purpose. There's something self-serving about it, right? And so just be mindful of those things. If all of a sudden there's big ebbs and flows or big swings with adoration or attention or gifts or things, I know this is tough. You don't want to second guess every gift you're given by your spouse either, right?
I think it's more of recognizing a pattern. So if every time you're receiving a gift from your spouse or your boyfriend or your fiance, and immediately following the gift, receiving of the gift, that there's some type of expectation, or
that's self-serving, right?
That's something that's self-serving, or even if it's somebody else that's doing this and they're doing it purposefully to try to get you on their side about something or change your thought process on, their view or something, then and I'm saying this has happened a few times. That's a pattern, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And if it worked a couple of times, they're going to continue to do it because they realize, oh, this is something that obviously, again, is self-serving. I'm going to get my way if I go and, buy her a coffee or some flowers or,
So husbands, wives, like if you're the one doing that, stop it.
Because then you're taking away of something that could be just what it should be, and making your significant other feel loved and special, and especially if that's their love language and you're using as a weapon. Yeah, and if you recognize you are being that, that these things do come with strings attached, or they're self-serving, and it's not, like a gratitude or a gift,
what do you do? What do you do if you recognize that? I don't know. What's a good, just stop it. Don't accept the gift and be like, I know where this is going, and just is it a hard stop with that kind of stuff?
I think that's kind of tough because
right.
Until they show the strings that are attached, and then that's probably the appropriate time to call them out. You know, is that why you gave me, this bouquet of flowers? I mean, I don't think that's really going to end well. That's a tough one, right? Nice way to kind of maneuver around that.
So let's end the episode by spinning it and kind of talking about, okay, what can you do? What are some of the things you can do to deal with a narcissist in your life? Whether it be your spouse, your family, or whoever, right? Your coworker. I think from a relationship standpoint, like if we're talking about a romantic relationship, we talked about it at the beginning, right? If there's no ring on the finger, run. Yeah. Run. There's not a good path. There's not a good ending to this story.
Why sign up for this if you already, this beginning early stages of dating and, getting engaged.
Especially like the controlling, the possessiveness.
It's only going to get worse. Yeah.
If you don't feel better about yourself when you're with that person, they're not building you up and you're not building them up. Like that's not going to end well. I mean, Absolutely again, there's seasons where you're side by side and just kind of, you just got to trudge through stuff, right? But you're doing it together.
Yeah. You should feel safe, secure. You shouldn't feel anxious. You shouldn't leave a conversation or a date with someone and feel, like you said earlier, like you're completely drained or you have the runs just from being with that person.
Yeah, it's just not healthy.
It's not. But you need to escape that situation.
Some things are not immediately escapable, right? So if you're in a marriage and things are trending, and you feel, you know that certain arguments have that narcissistic tendency, one of the things that they talk about is knowing that a narcissist can't be wrong, and that it's useless or it's going to just suck the energy out of you to try to convince them otherwise that they're wrong, is just kind of sarcastically or just comment that, what, yeah, you're right, and then just like walk away and just like not engage in the argument, because a lot of times it's bait, right? A lot of times the stuff is bait just to.
Actually, not fighting with a narcissist will make a narcissist just lose their mind, because they get so much energy. They feed off of that.
Yeah.
But you need to also protect your heart and your health. And, I would remove myself from the situation, and I'm not going to bait them or fuel the flame, because that's exactly what they want. They want to upset you. They know what they're doing.
And the next one was,
what's that?
Along the bait line is ignore insults. Right?
Yeah.
That's the easiest bait, because now you're going after someone personally, right? There's other bait that can like get people to talk and get people engaged in their selfish conversation, but like flat out insulting someone is man, a lot of times for a narcissist it's just bait. It's like,
and it may even be like little backhanded comments that exactly what they meant by it, snide remarks,
right? That's probably, that's a good one.
I think it's because, again, remember, they're making you think. They're going to say these things to make you question. They're not going to come out and just call you every name in the book. That's too easy. Obviously, that's blatant. But they're going to say things like snide remarks and little backhanded comments.
Little backhanded compliments, and then what's tough about that, right, is if you call them out on it, even calmly, then what do? They spin. How could you say that? I would never think that or say that about you. Right. And then all of a sudden,
why do you always think that? Why do you always,
right? And now, boom, you took the bait. Even if you'd said it calmly and responded to the insult, boom, hooks in the mouth. You're done until you walk away. Right? So this one's kind of, it's kind of poignant, but the number 3 was, ask yourself questions like, why am I attracted to this person? Why do I maybe continually find myself?
Maybe because they grew up in a household of narcissistic behavior, and so
that they're conditioned to it, or
they're used to being treated that way.
That's definitely way over our pay grade.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage anybody who is in a situation like this, especially if you're, if you're not dating somebody, but you're engaged or you are married to someone, you're experiencing this, it's time to go to see a therapist.
Yeah. Because there may be some things that,
situation.
some hurts, some wounds in your life that you may feel that you deserve to be kind of punished. I mean, there's so many different ways, right? And like I said, it's way over our pay grade, but
here's the thing though. I do believe, and I could be wrong, this is again my theory, because I threw out a theory last week with Erika and why I think she got the $20 million. But here's my theory on this. Okay. I do believe if someone grew up in the narcissistic home, right, they are learning, this is the behavior, okay, that's acceptable and I can treat my future spouse this way, or this is the behavior that is acceptable for me to receive from my future spouse. It can go either way. They can be on the receiving end because they were on the receiving end as a child.
Or this is how I can act.
This is how I can behave.
Yeah, either way is disgusting. And,
right.
And just, Okay,
Well,
I thought you were saying the same thing a different way. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you think that's acceptable behavior either direction.
Right, either direction.
Right, and so you need to work through that.
Yeah, so I would suggest that you go see a therapist. If you are in the relationship already, in a marriage, or I don't know, if you're engaged, you probably are already in marriage counseling. I would definitely have counseling individually and then together.
Yeah. And then the last one I think is unfortunately it's still relevant in a marriage, if you're trying to work through things, but definitely in if there's environments where you have to, whether it's family, close family, or maybe not like close, like immediate family, but like, family that you're going to see multiple times a year, you're going to be around, they're going to be a part of your life and you can't control it, a coworker or a boss, or is, really try to isolate that as best as possible and really foster healthy relationships with others, right? Find other friends, make other friends.
Be around other people that will be uplifting.
Yeah.
And that are going to be encouraging, that are going to rally around you and support you and love you. And, because it may take some work, especially if you've been that isolated person, right?
Yeah,
and they've been isolated. Down.
Yeah. And so, but that's definitely that's a huge one, right? And then so if you can kind of isolate them, the person that's the one that's trying to isolate you, I don't know that it ever goes away necessarily, depending on the relationship, I guess. But man, find those people that speak into your life and have your best interests at heart, and that you have their best interests at heart. Like you find that out as you get older, right? Like your friendships, that people are your friends because they're your friends and they care and they love you. Doesn't matter. Like, imagine if I tried to do that and say, hey, Mary, Jackie this, Jackie that, and she'd be like, yeah, don't even try it.
And she would probably laugh at you. She would think,
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, it's a healthy relationship that she has your best interest at heart, and vice versa. If someone came to you and be like, Mary, man, you'd be like, stop right now.
Yeah.
I don't care what's about to come out of your mouth. Right. I don't want to hear it. You're not going to win this argument.
I wouldn't entertain it, and I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. So definitely foster healthy relationships.
Yeah.
All right, baby.
100%.
So there's a lot to narcissism, right? It just touches
really
so much in a relationship, and hopefully we set off some light bulbs, in people's lives and their relationships, whether it be friends, family, coworkers.
And there's a lot of really great information out there. I mean, I think that especially now, there's a number of different things that you can read up on, like on Pinterest, on Instagram. There are books. There are, I think there's support groups, people that are in these situations where maybe they can't immediately escape the relationship. So I really do think that if you are isolated and you're experiencing this, you really need to seek some help, so you have somebody in your corner that can help you through this process, because it can obviously steal days, years, memories, and just, a lot of who you are. So, and I don't really think anybody should have to walk through that.
Absolutely agree. Well, baby, it was fun. As we've coming up almost on 20 years of marriage now, like, I think that there's been little moments, right, where some pride and selfishness has creeped into the way we were treating each other, and that we've been able to recognize it. And this just like this is almost self-therapeutic for us too, right? And so like there's times when we do these things and I'm like, oh gosh,
That's a lot of self-reflection.
Exhibited that behavior.
Right.
Yeah, like, wow, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, we've been married for a long time. There are little things we had to work through, minor hiccups.
And we will continue to work through them. Yeah. Because we're committed to each other, right? And that's it. Ultimately, we both know that we are, I'm for you, you're for me.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that person in your life, or you think that person in your life is just not that person anymore, like use some of these tips and some of these signs, and then kind of like Jackie said, find the right people to get help.
Right.
All right.
All right, guys.
Well, we hope this was a good episode for you. It was, like I said, it was a little self-therapeutic for us. It all started with the hustler and the housewife, and now we're talking about hopefully helping some marriages. Yeah,
I mean, it goes hand in hand. Obviously theirs is to a different extreme, but definitely check out last week's episode if you haven't listened to it, and take a look at the documentary. It's actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I really hate that couple.
Yeah, it may anger you, but it's a good documentary to watch. So check it out.
Gosh.
But we'll be back next week, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if so, please continue to listen and subscribe on Podbean, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. We would greatly appreciate positive reviews, and we will answer any questions at feedback@destinationmarriagepodcast.com. For up-to-date content and news about the podcast, you can follow us on Instagram at destination_marriage and visit our website at destinationmarriagepodcast.com. Be sure to tune in next week.